It's going to be a great evening because I just found out that I'm getting to run the meeting tonight. So woohoo, exciting. So excited when I got here. So today I would like to welcome everybody to the regular meeting of the Madera City Council, Wednesday, May 1st, 2024, first day of May, woohoo. The Madera City Council meetings are open to the public. This meeting will also be available by public viewing and participation through Zoom. Members of the public may also observe the live stream meeting on the city's website at www.madera.gov/live. Members of the public may comment on any agenda item at the meeting or remotely through an electronic meeting via phone by dialing 669-900-6833. Enter ID 854-8211-7891 #. Comments will also be accepted via email at citycouncilpubliccomments@madera.gov or by regular mail at 205 West 4th Street, Madera, California, 93637. I hereby call this regular meeting to order of the Madera City Council at 6:01 p.m. Roll call, please, City Clerk.
Mayor Garcia is absent. Mayor Pro Tem Gallegos?
Here.
Councilmember Rodriguez?
Here.
Councilmember Montes?
Here.
Councilmember Evans?
Here.
Councilmember Mejia?
Here.
And Councilmember Villegas?
Here.
Thank you, City Clerk Gonzalez. And I would like to bring up a beautiful lady, Joyce Lance from Glory of Zion Ministry, to do our invocation for tonight. If everybody could please stand.
Good evening, City Council persons and citizens of Madera. We're reminded that Solomon went up there to the bronze altar before the Lord, which was at the tabernacle of meeting, and offered 1,000 burnt offerings on it because he had been assigned or positioned as king. And on the night, God appeared to Solomon and said to him, "Ask, what shall I give you?" And we have that opportunity of asking God, what would you have us do, Father? How can we serve the city of Madera and its citizens? And Solomon said to God, "You have shown great mercy to David, my father, and have made me king in his place. And now we pray. Now, O Lord, let your promise to David, my father, be established. For you have made us and positioned us, city council members, and all of our first responders. Give us wisdom and knowledge that we may go out and come in before this people that we serve. For who can judge this great people of yours? God is our only source of true wisdom, and he promised to give it to anyone who asks for it." So, Father, we're asking and encouraging one another to ask for wisdom from you. Wisdom begins with the fear of the Lord and finds its fulfillment and love for others. We do not presume to know how to do what the Lord has called us to do. We cleave to the Lord. We depend upon him for wisdom. We choose to believe that God will give wisdom to all who ask for it. We pray, Lord, give us wisdom, knowledge, insight, and foresight as we work together for the benefit of the city of Madera. Help us to remember that all that we do should bring glory to you, Father, that the people of Madera should benefit from. May we take them to heart. May we always draw from the wisdom of God, and through our faith, look to God for our daily provisions. In Jesus' name. And all of the people did say yes and amen, to the will of God.
Amen.
God bless you.
Thank you. And please remain standing for the flag salute.
Ready? Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilwoman Mejia, for that salute. At this time, I am looking for my colleagues of any changes to approve our agenda.
Mayor Pro Tem, if I may.
Yes.
Staff has requested to pull 2 items this evening. It would be the workshop for the budget and item D2.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other council members willing to pull anything? I see none. All those in favor, oh, I need a motion. Sorry, I'm used to making the motions.
Move to approve the agenda with pulling the items that staff recommended.
Second.
Okay, I have a first and a second with those items being pulled on the agenda given by our city clerk. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on, we have several proclamations. That's why we probably have a full house here tonight, but so well deserved, everyone that's here tonight. Thank you for being here and taking your time out to be with us. So I will start. I'm going to have to get this in line with our proclamation for April as being Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And we have Leticia Rieros here. Come on up. So, Ms. Rojas, we'd like to thank you for coming tonight in behalf of all the city council members and everyone here in our community to say thank you for giving us the education and the awareness for sexual assault for this month of April. We're a little month behind. We didn't have the proclamation ready, so we are here giving to her now in May. So on behalf of the council and myself, Mayor Pro Tem Gallegos, we thank you for all your hard work and dedication to our community members and our city. If you would like to say a few words.
Yes, I'd like to thank the community for helping us bring awareness about sexual assault. All of our events had great turnouts. So we had our event on April the 2nd, which was Wear Teal Day. And we had lots of community support, lots of pictures on Facebook. On April 12th, we had more than 75 pre-registered participants and well over 100 people accompany us at Courthouse Park to walk a mile in her shoes. On April 24th, we had community participation for Denim Day, where we all wore denim in protest of a law that was passed, a case that was overturned in the Italian Supreme Court back in 1989. To honor Denim Day, what we do is we give out little denim pins. And this year we were able to distribute more than 2,200 pins throughout the community. So we'd like to thank the community for helping us bring awareness about sexual assault, especially our community all of our community partners, but especially the local law enforcement agencies, the district attorney's office, and the Department of Social Services. Thank you.
All right.
Ready? 1, 2. Right, thank you.
Thank you again, Ms. Rojas, for coming tonight. We appreciate it. Moving on to our back row back here is our wonderful City of Madera firefighters. If they could please come up, we have Station 56, 57, and 58, and our Chief Duran, if he could come on up too. I don't see Chief McCombs representing, just... All right. I have to tell you that our city firefighters go through a lot. And people say, oh, we're hot, it's hot. You have no idea the equipment they have to put on when there is a fire. And it is so heavy, and to endure the heat on top of all that is amazing that they do that. We did have a big fire in our city off the river, a couple of houses burnt down. And I can tell you, these gentlemen and our women city firefighters give more than we can even imagine. I've been asked to go right along on Station 57, I think, because they get called all night. That's the station that gets called all night. 56 gets called all night. And it's hard when you're dead asleep, being woken up to alarms to get up and be ready to go to fight or a health emergency or whatever it is. So we're doing a proclamation today to recognize May 4th as the day to recognize our firefighters in the city of Madera. So, gentlemen, I thank you for all that you do. The council thanks you for all your hard work and dedication to the residents in the city. And we go to bed knowing that we're protected if any of that was to ever happen in our city, that you guys are out there doing the best that you can in the conditions that you have, because fighting fires are not easy. It is very difficult. So on behalf of the council, city council, and Mayor Pro Tem Gallegos, I recognize you as May 4th being our day of our firefighters. And if our Chief Duran could come up and say a few words, we'd appreciate it. And give the names of each of our firefighters that are here.
All right. I should let them introduce themselves.
Or they can introduce themselves. Yeah.
All right. First, I'll say before. Yeah. Okay. Take it. Sorry, they got a call. So that's 3 less names I have to remember. This is our engineer Crooks here at Station 57, firefighter Zach Heyer, 57, Captain Vance Killian at 57. And then to my right here is Captain Joe Quistorf at 58, Tyler Hobbs, the firefighter at 58, and Cameron Ward, the engineer, there at 58. So that's the one out on Condor. What I'd like to say real quick is to you gentlemen, actually, is on behalf of myself and the administration, is we're a small department and there's a lot of work that has to be done. There's a lot of heavy lifting. And so whether it's from the inspection programs to the fire hydrants, to the fires, the gear maintenance, the gear equipment, every day is filled with something. And then what happens on a day-to-day basis, whether it's community events or something like that. And anytime we task these gentlemen with doing anything, it's never a complaint. It's always, we'll get it done. And when they go out there and they do their job, they do it with a sense of pride, work ethic that represents not only our department, but we feel represents the city of Madera and the citizens, to a manner in which you all can be proud of. So again, on behalf of myself, administration, I just want to tell you gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you. And we'll just go up for a picture.
Thank you. Keep trying.
I'm trying to get the
Way there. Thank you.
There you go. You can hold it there.
All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. Got it. Thank you. Thank you, Jim.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate all your hard work. And I know all of you realize it, but they live at the fire station when they're working. They don't get to go home and see their kids and their wives every night. So it is a commitment that they give to our city and our residents to do what they do. So we truly appreciate that. My next proclamation is for Relay for Life. And I don't see Charlotte Brewer in the audience right now. Oh, where?
No.
Oh, come on up then. All right. Relay for Life is this Saturday. So if you have some time, come on out to Town and Country Park. It's all day, all night up until Sunday morning to walk to kind of raise money to fight awareness on cancer. And it's very important because I'm sure everyone has somebody in their life, a friend or a family member that has been affected by this disease. So on behalf of the City Council and Mayor Pro Tem Gallegos, we thank you for all your hard work and dedication in raising money to help fight this cause in our community and in our world. So, and your name was, ma'am?
Diana Combs.
Diana Combs. Would you like to say a few words? Oh, no. Charlotte's going to get you, not a few words. So I hope to see everybody out there on Saturday.
That I have it down. Yeah, just got to keep it. Thank you. Just like too many.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Again. The next proclamation is a very important one. If you don't know, I'm an educator. That's my first profession. School teacher for 32 years. So I am constantly involved with a lot of students that the next proclamation will be about. It's recognizing National Foster Care Awareness Month. So if I can get Wilma Hashimoto to come on up. She's the CASA Executive Director, and she can explain to you what CASA is probably better than I can. So we're going to give her that opportunity. At this time, we would like to thank you for all your hard work and dedication and all the caseworkers that are out there working with our young individuals that need support because they're misplaced in other homes, foster homes, because of social circumstances that happen. And it's out of their control. It's very difficult. And so I thank anybody that is involved in CASA that steps up to be a big brother or big sisters to help them through this very difficult time. So I'll have you say a few words and then I'll hand this to you.
May I just say that you are probably the most energetic mayor pro tem in this nation, I'm pretty sure. Thank you, Councilwoman Gallegos, as well as other council members as well. I come here every year and just to share about CASA. It stands for Court Appointed Special Advocates. Our mission is to recruit, train, and support community volunteers, and there's at least 40 of you here, that we assign to foster youth who are here in our local community in Madera. And it is not easy because these children, if you remember, like I always equate it to COVID, they were, COVID shut down. You had so many questions. Well, that's how our foster youth are. They were removed from their homes and they have so many questions about what is this foster care system I'm in? Who are these attorneys? They may not even know of the occupation of a social worker, especially when they're like anywhere between 0 to 21. Their world was truly uprooted. And we need community volunteers. We have a total of 220, but not enough in Madera, may I say, because that's between Madera and Fresno. And you don't want Fresno to have more than you. You know, there's a little competition there. So we want to definitely increase it. Here with me tonight, I have a wonderful employee, Amanda Rosales. She is one of 2 advocate supervisors who oversee our wonderful advocates, some who have been with us for 17 years. So, the best way is just to get involved. It's not like a lot, just 10 to 15 hours a month. So, Amanda?
As Wilma said, my name is Amanda Rosales. I'm one of the coordinators here in Madera, and I help guide our volunteers, guide the foster youth that they're assigned to through the dependency system.
So with that, I would like to give this proclamation to CASA for their dedication and volunteer hours of 20,000 hours that they have given to our youth in this last year. They inspire the public to join them in this being the voice of our foster youth and Fresno and Madera County, like we just heard. I do have a good friend who's been a big brother, and he's now looking at a few decades that he's fostered this youth, and he's just an amazing young man, and he couldn't be who he was without that. So if you've got some extra time and you can commit to step up, they need more role models for these young people to know that life can be good. And we struggle too, and they have to see that as individuals and grown-ups, it's not easy for us also. So with that, we proclaim National Foster Care Awareness Month, the month of May, and we thank you for that on behalf of the council and Mayor Pro Tem Gallegos. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Waiting for you.
One, two, okay.
Okay, everybody, hang on. We got a lot tonight. We usually just have one or two, but it's an important month, this month of May. And so at this time, I would like to bring up U.S. Postal Master, Sikan, and NALC Representative, Miss Medina, and Madera County Food Bank Executive Director, Mr. McWhirler. If we can all come up, please. And these three wonderful individuals coming up are being recognized for Letter Carrier Stamp Out Hunger Food Drive. And you're thinking, Hunger Food Drive? Are you kidding? We do. I see it in our schools. I see it on the streets. I see it at the store. We don't realize that a lot of us are privileged and have food on the table, but there are a lot that don't. And so we thank our U.S. postal carriers that give bags to us in our boxes that we can fill up and put by the curb, and our mail carriers will pick them up and give them to the food bank. And with the food bank, we'll put boxes together for people in need to make sure that they have good food on the table for their children. The food bank does amazing things, especially at holiday time where things are really tight. And a lot of people probably in this community donate food throughout the holidays to much needed families. So with that, we would, on behalf of the City Council and Mayor Pro Tem Gallegos, we would like to give this proclamation on May 4th as a day of recognition for Letters Carrier Stamp Out Hunger Food Drive. All right. And yes.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank members of the City Council and Pro Tem Mayor here. Thank you for bestowing this honor on us. The Postal Service is proud to support Stamp Out Hunger, the nation's largest single-day food drive, along with our esteemed partner, Madera Community Food Bank. With the help of sponsors, volunteer organizations, and U.S. Postal Service employees in 10,000 communities nationwide, the National Association of Letter Carriers will conduct its 32nd annual Stamp Out Hunger Food Drive on Saturday, May 11th. Over the course of its 30 years history, the Stamp Out Hunger Food Drive has collected well over 1.9 billion pounds of food. We need your help to raise awareness of the one-day food drive to help local food banks replenish their stock needed to feed hungry families. You might find this hard to believe, but in our country today, over 44 million Americans are food insecure. Over 13 million are children living in food insecure households. And over 5 million seniors choose between paying rent, utilities, and having enough nutritious food. These could be kids or grandparents in our own neighborhoods. The Postal Service is uniquely qualified to help. Our letter carriers visit every address in the country, and they're eager to help their neighbors. That's why we are asking everyone to leave non-perishable food items by their mailbox on Saturday, May 11th. This is really easy way to make a difference. It doesn't cost much to pick up an extra item or two at the supermarket and leave it by the mailbox. Or maybe you already have some non-perishables in your kitchen pantry you'd like to donate. Just think, the Postal Service delivers mail to more than 160 million homes and businesses. If everyone donated 1 can of food on May 11th, think how many hungry children we could feed. We can do it, folks. We can make this the biggest year yet for Stamp Out Hunger. I want to thank our partners, our volunteers, and our hardworking letter carriers for their efforts. Your teamwork is making a real difference in a lot of lives. On Saturday, May 11th, let's keep working together to stamp out hunger in America once and for all. And thank you.
Just the recipient. Well, we're very thankful for the continued support that this community has shown us, especially our partners as well. We do a massive amount of work in this county, feeding over 30,000 individuals a month, distributing close to 400,000 pounds of food a month. And for those of you who don't know, we are working with less all the time. We've been outgrown in our warehouse for a very long time, and I am proud to announce that we are building a 20,000 square foot new facility, and we'll be breaking ground May 24th. So we're very excited about that. So thank you.
Postal partners.
I have my sister.
Postal partners in over here. No, you come in the front. Come in the front. Thank you so much. Thank you guys have. You should make it. Oh, yeah. I just wanted to make sure.
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. All right, got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you.
Thank you again. All right. Take care.
Yes. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you again for all that hard work and getting that food out to many community members needed in the city of Madera. The next proclamation, I'd like to recognize Public Service Week. And Public Service Week has to do with our city employees and staff. So at this time, I would like to bring up Nicole Say, Mid-Management, Employee Group Representative, Commander Arnold and Lieutenant Adams from Law Enforcement Mid-Management, Jacob Duran, Vice President of Madera Police Association. Oh, Dunn, sorry. I said Duran. Jacob Dunn, excuse me. Officer Dunn. General Bargaining Union, Manny Macias. Okay. Please show me your turn. Is Manny coming around? Yeah. All right. As you look behind me, you see some of our city employees that represent our union groups. And you have to know that all your service calls and everything that you see in the city is because of these gentlemen and women here behind me who are here to do wonderful things for all of you. It's not easy getting those phone calls about the streets. It's not easy getting that phone call that there's a water break. There's not easy getting the phone call that somebody's walking in the neighborhood. Like we say, no call's too small, call it in. And so it's not just that. We talk about paying your water bills. Every inch of our city is covered by all these union groups. And so I thank them for all they do and all their members. It's totally appreciated. On behalf of all the city council and Mayor Pro Tem, we would like to recognize you as Public Service Week in the month of May for all that you do and make life better for this community in the city of Madera. With all your skills and diversity that is needed to run the city, we couldn't do it without you. You guys are the boots on the ground that make this ship go sailing. So with that, we would like to recognize each and every one of you. Please share that with your staff, that we appreciate it from the bottom of our hearts and know that when you come to work, it's a great place, just like we come here to City Hall to make a difference for this community. And so with that, congratulations to each one of you. You guys can go up for a picture. Short people in front. That's what you think I'm really short one here.
Yeah. Back row.
Do we fit?
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Got it. Thank you.
You do basketball.
Oh, yeah. Awesome idea.
Oh, yeah. They do. Thank you. Take care.
We appreciate you, city employees, spending your evening with us here at City Council tonight.
Oh, wait, we got work to do.
He said one more. That's it. All right, everyone. We'll continue to public comment. The first 15 minutes of the meeting are reserved for members of the public to address the council on items which are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council. Speakers shall be limited to 3 minutes. Speakers will be asked but not required to identify themselves and state the subject of their comments. If there's a subject in an item on the agenda, Mayor Pro Tem has the options of asking the speaker to hold the comment until that item is called. Comments on the items listed as public hearing on the agenda should be held until the hearing is open. The council is prohibited by law from taking any action on matters discussing that are not on the agenda, and no adverse conclusions shall be drawn if the council does not respond to the public comment at this time. Is there anybody here in chamber that has comment? Just come up to the mic, please.
Let's wait for my time to start.
It just starts once you start.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, hello all. My name is Destiny Delgadillo from Crest Creations and Promotions. I'm a small business focused on bringing family community events to the city of Madera. The reason for me being here today is because this past weekend, I hosted an event, April 28th in Madera, the Food Vendor Throwdown. Not sure if anybody heard of that, which included mobile vendors, food, and craft. However, it's come to my attention that the city of Madera is currently charging mobile vendors a total of $64 to start their mobile vendor license, plus a background check fee of $50. After that, each time a vendor would like to vend at an event, they are charged a daily fee of $50 per event. This does not include the extra 135 mobile food vendors have to pay to the health department for each event as well. This may not seem like a lot to some, but for a small business mobile vendor, this is a lot. Especially since to participate in an event, the host would also charge a fee of $35 to $45 for a vendor to participate, making so that the mobile vendor would have to pay a total of $95 to $230 to participate in a one-day event here in the city of Madera. And if you know a craft mobile vendor, then you know some may not even make enough to cover the charges they paid to attend the event or cover overhead costs of supplies. I've done my research, and neighboring cities like Fresno, Chowchilla, Merced, Kerman, they either have no fees for mobile vendors or they charge no more than $14 for each event that they would like to attend in the city limits. However, the vendor is responsible for keeping track of what events they've attended, as well as reporting income received on a yearly basis to the city business office. So with that being said, my goal today is to bring this up to all our representatives of Madera and see if we can make a change and assist our local small business mobile vendors and make the fees affordable so that they may participate in these upcoming community events as licensed vendors here in the city of Madera. Also, making a change in these fees would benefit the community, so vendors would not have to resort to attending non-permitted or licensed pop-ups in people's homes or traveling to neighboring counties or cities outside of Madera city limits. And to give a better example, I had 40 or more inquiries from participants who wanted to join my event on April 28th. Out of 40, 70 vendors made the choice to get licensed to attend. However, many more would have loved to join if only the mobile vendor fees were not as high as they are now. Our community has been asking for events here in town, so they do not have to travel to other neighboring cities, and I am willing to bring that and more events. However, having the city's assistance and making mobile vendor fees affordable would assist in this, because the only negative feedback I received from my last week's event was that the community was hoping to see more vendors at the event. I'm like 11. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your time. And if somebody can get back to me on a decision about this, that would be great.
Okay, Destiny, can you give your information to our city clerk?
I can.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Citlali. I'm a City of Madera resident from District 6, and I wanted to invite you all to an event that will be happening this Friday, May 3rd from noon to 7 p.m. It's called New Yavi, a Mixtec word that means plaza. So we're going to be celebrating culinary heritages from the Mixtec and Triquil region of Oaxaca. So these are local women who are showcasing their foods. So it might not be foods that you can find in restaurants. It might be something that's like a bit more homemade and authentic feeling. So if you would like to come out and celebrate with us, it'll be at Courthouse Park on Friday, May 3rd from noon to 7 p.m. So.
Oh, great. You got flyers for us. I was trying to write fast enough. Thank you for that information.
Hello, my name is Hector Hernandez. I'm the Executive Director for Unidad Popular Benito Juarez. And I'm here because we just had an event this past Saturday, and we initially requested the park, the Sunrise Park in Madera on March 22nd, and we were sent information about going back and forth and getting the insurance, the permits, and everything that we needed. The insurance was submitted on April 1st, and the payment was sent out on April 5th. And from April 5th to April 25th, we didn't hear anything from the parks or anything from anybody from city. And then at the 2 days before the event, we had started passing out flyers and posting flyers in the community. We get a notice that payment was not received and insurance was not received. And this is 2 days before the event. And after knowing and speaking to one of the reps from Parks and telling us that we were okay with everything, just at the last moment, we had to had to call my broker to fix the insurance stuff because it was only a couple of wording missing. And unfortunately, my broker's in Oklahoma, so it wasn't something that I can just do so quick, but I was able to get that fixed a day before the event. The payment on the day before the event, I was notified that they did receive the payment. So we didn't get the approval of the permit almost at 5 o'clock on the 26th. And so we were thinking about canceling the event just because we couldn't change a lot of stuff at the last moment, but we were able to do so. This past event, it was for the Day of the Kids. We had approximately about over 700 toys that we hand out. We got donated over $5,000 in toys, food, drinks and things like that for the community. And so everything that we did for the community was completely free, even from food, drinks, and everything. But the problem why we had it was about the city trying to get this process in a better position or in a better process. I think that if they would have done something like that, I think we wouldn't be stretching out until the last day. And I don't know what happened from the 5th to the 25th, which was almost 20 days apart. But the problem was that we were trying to call everybody to possibly canceling the event. And I just wanted to bring it to you guys' attention because we're trying to bring community events, community projects, something that is trying to get kids out of the street and drugs. Right nowadays we have a lot of youth that there's no activities in the communities, and the more that we want is that we want to have communities to be involved in something, like kids activities and others activities that we can, like Citlali was talking about the food and all that. This is all really important for our community. So our intention with the community is to bring these kind of activities. And I brought emails and messages and everything that you guys can see what happened, because I don't even know what happened. But when you have organizations and groups or clubs that are trying to do community activities with the city of Madera, and you run into something like that, it holds you back. It gets you frustrated because you're trying to hold something good for the community, but if there's no support or collaboration from the city, in the future, you have to say if you want to do it again, or you want to go into private ranches or communities that have private homes that you can probably hold something like this. So I just wanted to bring this to you guys' attention, and I brought the emails and messages that I can share with you guys so you guys can see literally what happened.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. Appreciate it. City Clerk.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Alexis, and the reason I am here today is because I have went through something similar as Destiny and Hector. So I currently host a youth soccer league called Liga Pequeña. And on the day of March 9th, I myself hosted a fundraiser at the Sunrise Rotary Sports Complex as well. On my behalf, we were doing this fundraiser to help those families out, get their loved ones back to their place of origin. So I did go through the same issue. I submitted my applications. I submitted my payment. I did everything that was asked of me. The same thing, a day prior to my event, I received a message from the city saying that my event was not going to take place because it was not approved due to my paperwork being submitted. So I also have proof of everything you guys can take a look at. And then, like you said, we can't do community events without the support of the city. So I do run this youth soccer league. I have a lot of sponsors that would wish to become a vendor, but like Destiny said, the prices are too much for them to afford to even, so I just wanted to reach out to you guys, if we can make a difference for our city, starting from you guys supporting us to bring these special events to our community, to keep these kids active. I mean, we count with over 3,000 kids participating with us. Not just that, We also carry Open Men's League, which is played on Sundays. We have over 36 teams. And then we also have started a co-ed team Wednesdays. We have a co-ed season. We have over 7 teams as well. And then Fridays, we count with 17 players, 17 teams for the veterans. So we really want to keep recreational activities going on, events going on. But if we don't have the support or if there's this miscommunication with the city, there's so much we can do on our half. So what I do want to suggest you guys, maybe we can offer a workshop out to the public to guide us or educate us better on how to process the paperwork with the city to get these permits done. And I thank you for your time.
Perfect. Thank you, Alexis. Is there anybody else wishing to speak at public comment? City Clerk Gonzalez, do we have anybody on Zoom or online?
We do, Mayor Pro Tem, I'm sorry. We have a caller on Zoom with the phone number ending 2305. If you would please press *6 to unmute yourself and speak, please. Caller with the phone number 2305, you may now speak.
Good evening. My name is Jonathan Martinez, and the reason for my call today is I wanted to talk about the scammers that are in town, and not the scammers that are on Cleveland Street saying that they have cancer, waiting for people to drive past and give them a buck. I'm talking about the professional scammers that pretend to work under false pretenses to do good work for the community. They pretend to do tournaments, fundraisers for causes that are not real. They pocket the money for themselves. They scam the community, and they expect us to be okay with them using taxpayer-funded fields for them to make a buck. And then they have the nerve to show up to these meetings and complain that they don't like the rules of the community that they live in. It bugs me that at first they don't bother to learn the rules, and then on top of them not learning, they don't want to follow the rules. The rules are there for a reason, and just because you don't think that they should apply to you, it doesn't make it true. You can use our community facilities to make money, and that's just not right. One point I do want to give them is that there is a lack of communication between the city and the town and their citizens, and that's something that needs to be fixed. Out of everything they said tonight, the only thing I agree with everybody talking is that the city of Madera, the town of Madera, the people who work in that building at City Hall lag. They drag their feet just to process any permits, and that is tiring. That's it. That's all I have to say. I relinquish my time.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez, for your comments. Do we have any online? City Clerk Gonzalez?
We have no one else on Zoom and no written comment. Thank you.
Okay, with that, I close public comment at this time and open up public hearing. A1, consideration of application for a general plan amendment, GPA 2022-08. And I think Mr. Tackett has this.
Yes, good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Gallegos, council members. Share my screen with you here.
Hold on, Mr. Tackett, we can't quite hear you yet.
Hey, Will, there's some feedback when you're speaking into the microphone. Can you hear us?
Yes, is that any better?
That's better, thank you.
Okay. Is everybody seeing my screen okay here?
Yes.
Okay. The item before you this evening are applications for a general plan amendment 2022-08, a specific plan amendment 2022-01, a rezone 2022-09, and the related environmental findings. These applications pertain to an approximately 2.3 acre site located on the westerly corner of North Schnorr Avenue and Foxglove Way. This is a 2023 aerial photograph of the property. You can see that the property remains vacant. There is a ponding basin developed to the west, single family residential developed to the south and to the southwest. There is some offices to the south, commercial development and vacant commercial land, zone land to the east, and multifamily to the north. The general plan amendment was filed to amend the land use map to change the plan land use designation for the subject property from office to commercial. The specific plan amendment was filed to change the land use designation within that specific plan land use map from professional office to C1 light commercial, and that's being done in accordance with the provisions of the municipal code, which require consistency between our specific plans and general plan densities and intensity, et cetera. And then the rezone application has been filed to request that the property be rezoned from the PO professional office zone district to the C1 light commercial district in accordance with the proposed plan amendments. No physical development is proposed at this time. These are just to change the land use and rezone the property to commercial. This is the general plan land use map. You can see the areas in red on this map are all designated for commercial land uses. We have the high density residential to the north where the existing multifamily is developed, open space for the ponding basin to the west, and low and medium density residential to the south. The purple shows office, which is the current designation of the subject property, and the immediate property to the south. This is the land use map for Madera specific plan number 1, primarily prepared for airport purposes before this countywide airport land use compatibility plan was adopted. This land use plan designated the subject property for professional office land uses. Again, the specific plan amendment would propose to change that to the C1 light commercial, consistent with the proposed zoning. This is the existing zoning map for the area. Properties in red to the east, opposite Schnorr Avenue, are zone C2. Marketplace Shopping Center to the south of that is C1. And then we have R2 and R1 zoning, as well as some PD zoning for the residential uses within the area. An environmental assessment was prepared for purposes of CEQA. This ultimately determined and found that the project would not have any potential significant impacts after mitigation. So with mitigation, this project any potential significant impacts from this project can be reduced to less than significant. And mitigation measures were identified in the program attached to the report for purposes of air quality, cultural resources, geology and soils, hydrology and water quality, and noise. Staff is recommending that council adopt the resolution, which would adopt the mitigated negative declaration, as well as its mitigation monitoring and reporting program, as well as approve the general plan and specific plan amendments, and waive full reading and introduce by title only the ordinance to amend the official City of Madera zoning map from the PO to the C1 zone districts in accordance with rezone application 2022-09. This concludes my presentation, and I am available for questions if the council has any. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tackett. I will now open up the public hearing. City Clerk, do we have any members of the public wishing to speak?
We have no written public comment, nor do we have anyone on Zoom. Thank you.
Do we have anybody in council chambers that would like to speak? Okay. If not, I will close public comment for this item, and I'll ask any discussions from my colleagues or a motion.
Mayor Pro Tem, I just want to make a comment. Having to go through this with a similar parcel in a different county, I understand the process, and my understanding is that these general plan amendments are very seldom and at times are not they're not really approved in many cases, but in this case, we have a negative declaration, so it seems like everything's good. With that, I'd like to move on approving item A11.
I'll second that.
And through the mayor, if I may, could I read the title of the ordinance?
Yes, please.
Thank you so much. It would be to adopt an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Madera approving rezone 2209 and amending the official City of Madera zoning map to rezone approximately 2.3 acres of property, APN 03070-14 property from the PO Professional Office Zone District to the C1 Light Commercial. Thank you.
Thank you, City Attorney. With that reading, and I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for that. Moving on to A2.
I will make sure that my motion was for A11. I'm not sure if A12 had to have a separate motion on that. If not, then I would like to move on approving item A12.
Okay, that was my mistake. I thought we got both of them. But you can do a separate motion for A12. We've already read the ordinance, so we're good to go at this point. We just need a second and a vote.
Okay, so now we're going A-12.
So that was your motion?
Motion?
Second,
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? None. Motion A-12 unanimously passes. Thank you.
Again, Mayor Pro Tem, I'm sorry if I may have confused you or the attorney. I thought that we'd take that on S.
No worries. We'd rather do it properly the first time around. So thank you for that. A2, Military Equipment Use Ordinance and Policy, presented by Chief Chiaramani and Lieutenant Adams.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, Council, members of the public. Thank you for allowing us to present today. Chief Gino Chiaramani, we're here today to discuss our military equipment use ordinance and also present our annual report in a public setting. And I would like to introduce Lieutenant Mark Adams, who oversees our investigation division and was the author of the report this year. And I would like to have him present to council. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, and members of the public. So I have a brief outline just over AB 481 and then also the Madera Police Department's military equipment use policy. In 2021, Governor Gavin Newsom signed into law AB 481, which is now enumerated in Government Code 7070 through 7075. AB 481 was created to create transparency and oversight over the acquisition and use of military equipment by law enforcement. AB 481 requires law enforcement agencies to obtain approval from the governing body and by an ordinance adopting a military equipment use policy. In June of 2022, Council adopted Ordinance 994, approving the military equipment use policy. And in that annually, Council must vote to renew, change, or deny the ordinance. The city must provide an annual report outlining the use of military equipment, inventory, and acquisition for the prior calendar year, which was submitted as an attachment under the report. And the report must be made available to public within 30 days of a public meeting, which it was posted to our city's website. And then the report must be presented on a platform open to public comment, which the city council meeting satisfies that requirement. Items that are classified as military equipment, unmanned aerial systems, robots, diversionary devices, mobile command posts, chemical agents and smoke canisters, breaching equipment, kinetic energy weapons, kinetic energy projectiles, and armored vehicles. This is not all of the items or pieces of equipment that classify. That's just some of them. We do not own or possess all of these. However, we do possess many of them. The military equipment uses. The city currently possesses and utilizes various items classified as military equipment. There's a multitude of situations where we deploy these, and when we do deploy them, it is typically because there is no greater alternative that creates or produces the same level of safety for officers and civilians. In the annual report, it is a detailed list of the equipment type and quantity currently possessed by the police department, the number of times each piece of equipment was utilized during this calendar year, and any unauthorized uses or violations of the military equipment, which I'm happy to say there were none, and then any fiscal impact that was, accrued by the possession of the military equipment. And then our recommendation is review and accept the review the military use policy, the ordinance, and then the annual report. And by minute order, affirm the ordinance and accept the annual military equipment use report.
Thank you, Lieutenant Adams. And just a quick brief overview of our military report. We're not going through the entire report, but I did want to say we have items in 7 of those categories. He showed 8 of them up there. We only had uses in 3 of those. So when it comes to drones, we have 4 drones. We purchased one last year for $2,000 for total equipment purchase under this policy. And out of those use of drones, we used them 16 times. And a lot of times it's for oversight over crime scenes. If we have a traffic accident investigation that ends in death, we could get a lot better picture of tire skid marks and some of those items. We had no use of our robot this year. We had no actual SWAT callouts in the city of Madera this year. We do have a regional team, but all of our callouts were in the county or in the city of Chowchilla last year. For our mobile command post, we use that 16 times, but understand it's a multi-use command post. And we use that for DUI checkpoints. We use it for community events. We use it for the fair, just a location where officers come and can get out of the sun and take a break. The only other item we used on that in the military use report was our breaching equipment. We used it 2 times to be able to make entry into our residence. So we have very low usage. We have very low expenses as a result of it. We only purchased the drones, and then we had some updating on the command post vehicle. So overall, if there's any questions we could have, otherwise I'll turn it back over to Mayor Pro Tem and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Lieutenant Adams and Chief Chermani. I appreciate that report. I will now open up public hearing. Is there anybody in the audience that has any comments? I see none. City Clerk, do we have any written comments or anybody on Zoom?
We have none, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. I will now close public comment at this time and bring it back to my colleagues. If you have any questions. Councilwoman Mejia.
Thank you for the presentation. I got to see a copy of the annual report. Great job, by the way, on that. I was wondering where copies would be made available to the public in general.
So it's posted online to our city website, but if anybody would like to come to the police department, we would have no problem printing that out and providing that.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, with that, I
move to approve A2.
Second it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you for that. Moving on to consent calendar. Matters listed under the consent calendar are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion and one vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, a member of the public or a member of the council may request an item to be removed from the consent calendar and it will be considered separately. Are there any items that you would like to pull off the consent, my colleagues? With none, I see none. Anybody from the public that has any comments on the consent calendar? With that, I entertain a motion.
Motion to approve consent calendar is
second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Did you hear who that was, City Clerk? A motion. I heard one
Second. The motion and the second.
You got that?
There was a couple other seconds over there.
And then Councilmember Montes, second.
Motion from Councilwoman Evans, second from
Councilmember Montes.
Montes, yes, thank you.
And I just said aye.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Ooh, moving along, we're going to move over to our petitions and bids. We have D1. That will be ratifying and signing assumptions of 2 lease agreements at the Madera Airport by David Austin. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Gallegos and distinguished council members. We're here tonight to discuss an issue that's arisen with 2 lease agreements at the Madera Airport. that has resulted in a temporary situation where there's no lessee in the lease. So a quick timeline can be helpful. Around the year 2005, Mr. David Berry executed 2 lease agreements to construct hangars on airport property, and he did so. Around 2015, he took steps to put those leases into a family trust. However, he didn't seek city approval, so the city was unaware that he attempted to do that. And regrettably, around the year 2021, he passed away. So normally, this attempt to put leases into the trust could be remedied if he was alive and we could pursue formal assignment. But regrettably, he's not available to do that. So these 2 leases have about 21 years remaining on them. There is an entity that was recently formed, a bit of a long name. The entity is called 4160 and 4170 Aviation Drive, LLC. Those are the 2 addresses of the buildings at issue here. So they have expressed a willingness to assume the leases. So to facilitate this process, the city is proposing a remedy that involves retroactively consenting to the assignment that Mr. Berry attempted to do in 2015. So we can consent to that. Then the city council could consent to the assignment from that trust, now that it's in the trust, to the new lessee, 4160 and 4170 Aviation Drive, LLC. That would allow the new proposed tenant, the new LLC, to make full use of these 2 properties. And both the trust as well as this new entity have both indicated that they're comfortable with this approach, and they're also willing to indemnify the city and defend it against any claims and issues that may arise. Now, rather than this being just simply a mere paperwork glitch, there's really much more to it than that. These 2 hangars bring in a notable amount of revenue into the airport fund. As you may note in your staff report and on screen, the annual revenue from these hangars amounts to $10,250. This is noteworthy because the airport's funded within the 4 corners of its internal operations. It's funded by enterprise funds from the airport operation. And so the recommended fix or resolution that you'll pass for the fix is to approve the resolution that approves the assignment, the assumption of the leases, and consenting to the assignment of these lease agreements for the airport properties, both at 4160 and 4170 Aviation Drive, to the new proposed designee, 4160 and 4170 Aviation Drive, LLC. So I'm happy to address any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Mr. Austin, for that great introduction and timeline for these airport hangars. At this time, I would like to bring it to my colleagues for any discussion. With that, I open up to public comment. We have somebody that has public comment. Come on up.
Greetings. My name is Joanna Torres. My pronouns are she, her. I am the Airport Advisory Commission chairwoman. I would like for it to be on the record that this item was not on our commission April agenda. As a matter of fact, a commissioner expressed concern with prior airport-related items being presented to the council without informing the commission nor requesting input. I did not have a chance to review the 84-page report, but at a glance, it feels like there was like a violation initially when it was moved into the trust, and now we're kind of like asking to accommodate them to just move along as business as usual. One concern that the commission has been repeatedly expressed is that the fees being charged to those who use the airport is not adequate, especially when compared to the required time from city staff. I would like to also share that there's a waiting list of potential tenants, although I know that it's in the process of being updated, so it might be not as long as we initially thought. In conclusion, again, I just wanted to be on the record that this item was not shared or discussed or provided input to the Airport Advisory Commission, so it kind of feels like the Airport Advisory Commission is just a place to check off a box, to be honest. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Torres. Any other public comment? City Clerk, do we have any written comment or anybody on Zoom?
We have none, Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, with that, I close public comment. Any of my colleagues?
So
Councilman Montez?
I do want to thank the chair for coming up and kind of, I know you addressed some of it. Can you address some of the concerns? One is I'm sure our attorney reviewed it, but I have three. One, would this be something that is necessary to go before the commission? I mean, we have them there for a reason, right? We want them to look, and they're appointed by the council, right? So, I mean, I know that would be kind of a duplicative of services to the legality of what was going on. And then, I mean, to speak to the charges or the fees that we're charging, I know that's not something that we can just do on this. It's got to be master fee scheduled, so it takes a little bit more. But can you address that?
Sure. No, I'd be happy to. And thank you, Ms. Torres. I agree with a lot of your observations. There has been a fair amount of staff turnover. I am relatively new in my position, so I'm not putting forth a defense. I'm simply acknowledging that has been a challenge. We are now vigorously working at resolving those, and frankly, I've been working 6 and 7 days a week to do some of that. So I'll take some of those comments one at a time. Let's start with the fees. So we do recognize City Council sets the fees, fuel, flowage, and hangar leases and so forth. We are also in the process of getting a new rate study from a firm in Colorado. The last one was done in 2020. They are typically done every 5 years, so we're not quite due for the next one, which would be 2025. We did have a meeting with them. We expressed our concerns. COVID was a tumultuous time on the world scene. Did that skew the rates? And they sent us a formal reply, and they said if we wanted to do one, we could, but they would be very comfortable with CPI-based adjustments. And so we used the San Jose, Oakland, All-Urban Index as a measure of CPI. And so now, whether those have been consistently done per the lease agreements, which are typically every 5 years, I'm not in a position to speak to that. The leases number in the triple digits, so there's quite a few to review and get familiar with. But we are well aware that we do want to make those adjustments, conduct that study, and then set the rates at a fair market value. We don't want to gouge the tenants, but we do want to keep in mind the airport's funded within the four corners of its operation. So we don't want to leave too much money on the table either. Regarding the timing of this event that we presented tonight in regards to the Airport Advisory Commission meeting, we did have very happy to say we had our first meeting. We didn't quite have a quorum, but the members are optimistic. We had one the last quarter. It was in April. And that was the first one that had been held in a fair amount of time. But it was very good to get together. I came away feeling very good about it. And I think generally speaking, the feeling was very good because I'm passionate about our airport. I'm the son of a pilot. We had 2 planes growing up. I grew up on an airport. Now I want to bring that passion and experience to this airport and make our airport a gem in the Central Valley, and have every intention of reaching towards that goal. This particular matter that's come up happened fairly quickly. And to be honest, it kind of fell between the Airport Advisory Commission meeting and tonight's meeting. So I apologize for that. It was kind of on our long-term radar, but the pieces were moving very rapidly. And there's certain timeline issues that made it a challenge to either forestall this presentation or present it, wrap up the matter. And then, just keep in mind that we are sensitive to keeping the Airport Advisory Commission in the loop. And we've spoken about that. And we have, as city staff, we have every intention of doing that. So we value your input and your recommendations. There was another matter that was number 2 of 3. Oh yes, the legality, Mr. Councilmember Montez, you alluded to that. To be honest, the lease prohibits assignment, subletting, and occupancy by other persons who are not parties to the lease. So the attempts in 2015 were trying to be delicate about how to express it, but it was not permissible per the lease agreement. And in fact, the lease language allows the city to, at its discretion, consider that a termination of the lease, which would have been putting down a pretty big hammer on it. We're not out there to kick someone out and bring down a hammer, but it was that serious. Did we know about it? No, we had no idea. How could we know? Just like, I don't know if my car is getting broken into right now. There's just no mechanism to know certain things. Once we saw it advertised on a website, though, for properties, We were surprised. We investigated quickly. There were some technical misstatements on the website. For example, said such things as contains a promise of a new 30-year lease. There is no promise. The lease isn't 30 years and it's not new. So there's a lot of misinformation that's been floating around, unfortunately, around the edges. And we're just trying to clarify that, with the public, with the tenants at the airport, and certainly with you council members. So if I'm open to any questions. Would like to get this resolved. We have worked with the city attorney in finding a palatable legal solution to these issues.
Thank you, Mr. Austin, for that thorough report. Any of my colleagues have any additional questions? If not, I'd entertain a motion. Oh, sorry, Councilwoman Mejia.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Gallegos. I would like to know if this is something that requires, do we have a pressing deadline that requires action tonight, or is it something that could be tabled? It's uncomfortable to hear that commissioners are not being looped in just because we ask these people to be on these commissions. And I know that they're volunteer, and I personally know how difficult it is to get residents in the community that are capable, that are intelligent, that are contributing their time. I'm wondering if it's something that could be discussed in the commissioner.
Councilmember Mejia, if I may. It probably comes as no surprise to you. There are a lot of attorneys involved in this, trying to untangle this and help this move forward. I just talked to the attorney for the trust earlier today with regards to timing and where they're at. The entire deal is ready to close. Escrow is remaining open. This is apparently the only item left. They are trying to hit the May 1st deadline to hit the new month so that they can do it for their fiscal items. And they need to get their equipment and everything else in very quickly. But before they can do that, they need escrow to close. And before they can do that, they need approval for the assignment of the lease. So is there some urgency? Yes. Is it life and death sort of urgency? Probably not, but it's probably very important to all the parties involved. And they've expressed that importance to us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So if I heard you correctly, the terms of the lease prohibit any subleasing and any changes to like a trust in this case. Is that correct?
Yes, and I should clarify, is subleasing or assignment without prior written consent from the city.
And that's what we don't have today, right? That's the legality that we're trying to fix, is that there wasn't a written assignment.
Yes.
So, I mean, I do kind of have an issue with, that we have advisors out there that advise this council. And when this is a legal contract that requires, obviously attorneys to be able to spell that out, but also I think it's important that we consult with the advisory group. And then obviously that comes back to the staff. Staff then gives us direction. And in this case, I'm assuming that's the direction that we're getting today to fix that legality that we have with this lease, correct?
I would say yes, that's generally correct. So this is just me talking, not representing legal counsel. I'm not aware of another solution other than termination, because we need to take the leases that Mr. Berry attempted to put in a trust and put them somewhere. Right now, they're in the air. There's no one across the table. We have to assign them to something or someone. So if we can ratify, which means consent after the fact, that Mr. Berry did put them into his family trust, that trust is willing to now assign them to the new lessee, the new LLC. Otherwise, we could seek termination. I mean, unless there's a third option out there, and I'm not saying there isn't one, but I'm not aware of one either. So there's not a wide range of options here that I'm personally aware of.
Does that present any legal challenges for the city on the opposing side?
Maybe I could jump in on this one. As a practical matter, if we were to terminate this lease, which is basically the only other option we have out there, I would expect we wouldn't be involved in some sort of litigation. The reason for that is there's 2 decades left on this lease, over 2 decades worth. There are improvements that were put in by Mr. Berry. He did everything and performed it under the agreement, and that land has value. And as such, we have somebody who's willing to take over and use that property and pay the city for it. And I can imagine Mr. Berry's trust is a very well-funded trust and has sufficient assets and resources necessary to make sure that they get full value for that trust. So I don't want to say anything on the record, but just as a practical matter, that is probably a very realistic liability. There could be litigation.
Thank you for that, Shannon. Thank you for the response.
So Shannon, I have a question. And so you're saying that if we were to table it, city would lose revenue and attorney fees would increase because we'd have to go back to the table and come up with some other type of option, or drag it along until we can all parties can decide.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
And then I just have one final point for clarification. And this is something that would have been permissible had all this happened before with cities basically knowledge. It's just because of the order of where it's happening. That's why we have this issue.
Yes.
Okay. That answers my question. Thank you.
And I'll make Mayor Pro Tem, I'm sorry.
No, just jump in. I'm good.
One final just comment is that, again, I think it was said here by several council members that in the future, it's good to run this by your advisory. I think it's important for them to understand that, hey, we have this situation. I mean, that's why we have them there. And I think it's important that if we're going to have these folks go out there and become part of this advisory group, that it's not just in the airport, but in any other advisory, we acknowledge their presence and their feedback.
Definitely, duly noted. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments to my colleagues. With that, I am asking for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed? The motion is one nay. You want to do a roll call just in case?
Mayor Pro Tem Gallegos?
Yes.
Councilmember Rodriguez? Councilmember Montes?
Yes.
Councilmember Evans?
Yes.
Councilmember Mejia?
No.
Councilmember Villegas?
Yes.
And Mayor Garcia is absent. Motion passes with 5 yes votes and 1 no vote.
Thank you, City Clerk Gonzalez. And great report, Mr. Austin. Thank you for your time. With that, I'm moving on to D3. Amendments to Carrillo Engineering Company for professional engineering design services for the water storage tank, pump station, and transmission main. Presented by Ellen Bitter.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I'm up here or in front of you. Again, my name is Ellen Bitter. I'm Deputy City Engineer. And before I start my presentation that takes over the screen, I do want to acknowledge a couple of names that are also in the virtual audience, and that is Justin Peterson, who is the project manager with Carrillo Engineers, and Anthony Simo is also one of the project engineers, and he's got a local presence in the Fresno office. We also have Matt Bullis, our senior civil engineer, and of course, City Engineer Keith Helmuth. We're all part of the team preparing this project. So now I'll share my screen. All right. Are you seeing my slideshow?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So tonight we're here discussing that proposed water storage tank in Northeast Madera, and some background since it's been a while since we've been in front of you. In 2014, the Water System Master Plan proposed 2 future 6.75 million gallon storage tanks, one in Northeast Madera and one in Southeast Madera, as a need to meet our future demands on the system and pressures that are needed for fire protection also in the city. Subsequent to the 2015 drought, at a time when we happened to lose 3 wells at one time, we recognized that we needed to fast track some of our improvements that also serve as resiliency to our system and backup fire protection in a similar case if we were to lose wells again. So we put out a request for proposals to select a firm to assist with that planning and design. And on September 5th, 2018, we entered into a contract with Carollo Engineers for that preliminary design. The scope of their work was to validate the master planning assumptions, establish optimal tank storage volume, the booster pumping capacity, and transmission main infrastructure needed to support the tank operations. They also evaluated the material that the tank was to be constructed of, whether it was steel or concrete, and they prepared and have been updating the project budgets. I do want to note that at that time, when that item was approved, it was noted that the final services would be deferred, the final design services would be deferred until the preliminary studies were completed and the actual scope of the project was determined, and then it would be issued by amendment to the agreement at a future date. This is a map of our water system, and the numbered dots are wells, and the ellipsis in dashes is the general area for the tank and the improvements that are going in. We also, as part of this project, enlisted a Kell engineering group, who is our city's water modeling consultant, and they did focused analysis and hydraulic studies to determine the needs for the tank and the pressures and fire flow pressures in that area. I will note that given our reduction in water usage due to metering and also state mandated conservation efforts, our water demands have dropped. And so that was noted, and the recommendation for our tank size also dropped with that. It is now recommended for near-term needs as 2.5 million gallon, but ultimate growth needs would be 5 million gallons, and thus we're looking at a dual tank setup and just constructing the first tank right now. And it is an ideal solution for our fire flow issues, as well as our history of water quality and quantity issues in Northeast Madera, where simply drilling additional wells is not necessarily the best option. So on May 15th, 2019, the team of Carollo and staff presented to council the following recommendations, and that was to move forward with the design and construction of the 2.5 million gallon tank with a 5,000 gallon per minute booster pumping station. The site needs to be large enough to construct a second tank and add more pumps for both tanks, and also to design and construct a 24-inch transmission main to strengthen the system and operate the tank. So essentially, it's going to expand our network of the transmission mains. Kind of a snapshot of where we are at the moment. We have had some delays in securing the site, and so we've had to process 2 amendments with Carollo Engineers. One was to extend the deadline or the termination of their agreement, and the other was to update the billing rates. We're all suffering from inflation. They have continued to update the project costs, and at the moment, the estimate for the water storage tank, pump station, and transmission main is estimated at $23.4 million. We have made an offer for a preferred site, and if it is accepted, we hope to have possession by this summer for that tank site. Once that site is in hand, then the environmental review can be completed to move forward to final design, and sets us up better for future grant applications as well. So just to kind of summarize the improvements, the white line stemming from well 38, which is at Love's Truck Stop, represents the transmission main, and it's a schematic. The final alignment might vary slightly to optimize with property easements and such. So the white line will parallel the 99 and then generally head easterly along Ellis Avenue. We're looking at a full extension to Lake Street to serve and to connect to an existing water main that's in Lake Street that was built as part of the school development out along Martin. And then the blue circle is the general location of the preferred tank site. Here is a general schematic of what the tank configuration would look like. It'll be modified to match the geometry of the site that's being acquired, but generally it's showing the two tanks side by side and then the appurtenances that go with it. So what we have tonight is the presentation of the amendment to bring in the final design aspects of the project. Because as noted, the original agreement was only for the preliminary analysis and recommendations. So the scope for this Amendment 3 includes field investigations, field surveys, topographic surveys, taking the project from initial 30% design through the final design, preparation of the bidding documents. They also will provide assistance in grant applications and seeking out funding sources. And then, of course, the engineering support through bidding and construction. The cost for this amendment to the contract is $1,967,389, which equates to about 8.4% of the construction costs, which is within typical design cost guidelines for our construction industry. And I want to also note that the project now includes nearly 2 miles of the 24-inch transmission main that was not initially factored into the project, but it's determined that that is appropriate for the most efficient operation of the tank. As far as the project funding for the engineering phase and this contract amendment, those funds would come from the water utility funds, specifically our American Rescue Plan or ARPA dollars. They need to be obligated by December 24 and then ultimately expended by December of 2026. The construction funding for the project, we have a fair amount identified in our current water utility funds. There is a component to be funded with impact fees for future users. We have applied and made the request to Congressman Duarte's office for our congressionally directed community project funding. And then, of course, we would be seeking grants and loans to fill in the gaps for that project. So our recommendation is to approve Amendment number 3 to the agreement with Carollo Engineers for professional engineering design services for a water storage tank, pump station, and transmission main for $1,967,389. And our team is here if you have any questions.
Thank you, Deputy Engineer, for that great report. I'm going to bring it to my colleagues for any discussion or questions. Wow, the team looks ready too. They're just like ready to go. With that, I open up to public comment. Anybody in the audience like to speak? Oh, we got a taker. Everybody hold on.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Gallegos and council members. My name is Ed McIntyre. I live in Madera, California. I wanted to ask Assistant Engineer Bitter a few questions about the scope of the project. The project originally was developed by Akel in 2014. Is that correct?
That's correct. It was identified in the master plan.
Right. Now, the scope of the project as it was originally conceived has been modified. Is that correct?
That's correct. The hydraulic analysis factored in current water usage and demands, and also in order to meet our current needs for drought resiliency and fire flow protection, the location was adjusted to a more cost-effective use of our existing facilities.
Okay, thank you. What is the function of the transmission line? Why is that necessary?
The transmission main will deliver the water, our system water that's generated from the wells that are currently feeding our system, and be pumped into the tank. The purpose is so that the tank could be filled off-peak, and then it's available for use to help balance the pressures in the system in that northeast part of town. So the transmission main basically both feeds the tank and then also distributes the water from the tank when it's needed by system demands. And will also, if our consultant engineer has a better explanation, I'm happy for them to jump in too.
No, that's correct. The tank site's not going to include its own well, so we're not adding a new well as part of this project. So we need a source for the water. So well 38 was identified from the hydraulic model to be the best source of water for this tank.
So well 38 is the Love's well, is that correct?
Correct.
So originally the well field was going to be out in the southwest corner of 17 and 23. There were originally in that a kill study, they identified that and proposed 4 wells to be drilled there. So that is no longer being considered?
Let me jump in for just a moment. The well 38 at Love's represents the closest well that we can connect to the tank. The well field that you're talking about to the west of the city, that is still part of the plan. That goes back to the original water system master plan from 2014. What that master plan said, that is the, just a sound on my computer. But what that master plan says is we've got an issue with the east side of the town with regard to water quality and water quantity. So the well field on the west side of the town takes care of that. We have a better ability to get quantity and quality on that west side. There's an additional 24-inch line. In fact, the 24-inch line will basically circle the town, but allow as a bolster to the entire system. We'll be able to move water from the west side to the east side, take it from where we've got plenty quantity from the well and plenty quality, and take it to the east side. The tank will hold it. It can be filled during the, I'll go ahead and say during the less peak times when they cost less to go ahead and pump it out of the ground with PG&E rates. And then when we need it, it comes out of that tank. Once it's in the tank, it's upper gradient on the city and can feed the northeast side of town as well as other parts of the city.
So what we're actually doing then is exporting water from the west side and moving it to the east side?
No, we're not exporting water from the west to the east. We're essentially taking from the water table that we've got throughout the city. The city is essentially balanced in terms of water quantity. Much of the water that ends up at the west side of the city is flowing through from the east side of the city through to the west side of the city.
Yeah, that's my point, is that has been a historical occasion. But because of overdraft, the water is not moving through the city the way it used to. And in fact, the reason why there's good water on the west side is because the city doesn't use very much water, as opposed to on the periphery, the irrigated agricultural system. And what I have been a critic of this project for that very reason. This is more of a short-term project and a solution than a long-term solution, because we all know Village D is been approved. That's 10,000 units, 30,000 people, roughly half the population of the city of Madera. They will have their own water needs. And if we don't stop the overdraft, the water that has historically gone from the west side to the east side won't be there either. And I'm concerned about, I know we all are, the increased cost. And we already have pretty high utility rates for the population to bear. witnessed the billing cycles that had to be put into 4 different billing periods so that the finance department could handle the late payments, or not late payments, for the late coming payments. So what I'm suggesting is that we take a rethink about how we are approaching this solution and really look at it in terms of, is it a long-term solution? Or is our west side going to be plagued like our east side is now? And I would give the council the example of the city of Fresno. 50 years ago, they started a recharge project called Leaky Acres on their east side. And they started recharging their entire aquifer. Now, the city of Fresno has never been in overdraft through any of the droughts that we've experienced in the last 50 years. So we need to think about all the assets we have in the city, rethinking our overall water policy, and really be aggressive in husbanding our assets that we do have right now. For the last 4 years, water has been running through the Fresno River. About 1 million acre feet has passed through there. And we have not been able to, because of a lack of a very aggressive recharge policy that we should be invoking, to divert that water into the east side recharge ponds, just the way the city of Fresno has done.
Mr. McIntyre, we allowed extra time because you asked questions and we had to respond, but time is up. I'm sorry.
Thank you very much.
Mayor Pro Tem, I actually did not hear the second question or answer because there was a conversation behind me. Do you mind if you were, I want to hear that second question and answer. From Mr. McIntyre?
My second question?
Yeah, you had a second question answered by Alan.
So the question I had was the transmission line and the cost of that transmission line. The total cost is $28 million. What's the cost of the transmission line and what's the cost of the tank system? And then the final question I have for the council is, has there been an estimate of the cost of the operation to move this water from the west to the east versus doing something near the well fields, recharging near the well fields on the east side? Has that analysis ever been done? Thank you.
Okay, is there any more public comment? Alicia, do we have any written comment or anybody on Zoom?
We have none. Thank you.
Okay, I bring it back to my colleagues for discussion. Oh, Councilwoman Mejia.
That was from
last time. Okay. With that, I would like to entertain a motion from my colleagues for D3.
Motion to approve D3 as written.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you for that report and everyone and the engineering team hanging out with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to administrative reports. E1, select proclamation recipient for June 2024, City Clerk Gonzalez.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and council members. This evening, I bring before you a familiar item. It's the selection of proclamation recipients for month of June 2024. Some background for the audience. Council adopted a policy governing ceremonial document guidelines on August 2nd of 2023. In December of 2023, Council approved the 2024 list of annual proclamations. Council also discussed and approved certain proclamations would be labeled as recipient at the discretion of Council. Per Council direction from last December, staff is requesting that Council select a recipient for the following proclamations: Pride Month and Juneteenth Day. I will now turn it over to Council for your direction. Thank you.
Thank you, City Clerk Gonzalez. Councilman Montez.
So I did have a conversation with recipient that was willing to help us out on Juneteenth Day, and that was former council member Donald Hawley. So that would be my nomination for Juneteenth Day.
That's who it is.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So did we need to?
Is that a motion?
That's my motion.
Okay, Donald Hawley.
Okay.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Oh, sorry. Excuse me. Before I go ahead of myself, public comment. Anybody would like to comment in the public? I don't see any public comment. Do we have any written or Zoom? Oh, thank you for that. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, City Clerk Gonzalez. E2, requesting for directions regarding
Mayor
defending
Pro Tem, if I may, there were two.
Oh, there's two.
There's two. One is
Apologies.
Juneteenth and the other is Pride Month.
Okay, there we go. Pride Month. Next. Joseph, I'm getting there. Anybody have a nomination?
I can nominate someone, but I haven't spoken to them. I know that the Madera Coalition for Community Justice has started a youth group in support of the LGBTIQ youth community in Madera. So it's somebody that I can ask.
And I'd be glad to reach out to them as well with your direction.
Yes, please.
Thanks. Is that your motion?
Second that.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
E2, requests for directions regarding defending maintenance at Madera Municipal Golf Course. Come on up. Parks Director Hebert. Hebert. How do we say it?
Hebert.
Hebert. Hebert. There we go.
Just like in the woods, a bear.
Hebert.
Okay, I getting used to being last on the agenda. I still feel like a bad comedian. But anyway, this Joe Hebert, Parks Director, Mayor Pro Tem, Council, and remaining guests. Tonight I'll talk about item E2, which is a request for direction regarding deferred maintenance at the Madera Municipal Golf Course. Oops. During about a month ago on April 3rd, 2024, we presented the annual report on the golf course. Following the presentation, Council requested an update on projected capital revenue and plans to address maintenance needs at the golf course. This item is intended to provide said information. Just to kind of recap, on June 21st, 2023, Council approved the 9th Amendment to the Madera Municipal Golf Course and Management Lease Agreement with SGM. We've gone over this a few times, but I think it's good to just reiterate and refresh our memories. This amendment extended the existing lease agreement by an additional 5 years through June 30th, 2028, and outlined a new and improved revenue agreement between the parties. The following is a synopsis of the Ninth Amendment. This agreement is for 5 years and includes at city discretion one option to extend the term an additional 5 years. This agreement will expire on June 30th, 2028, with the 5-year extension available through June 30th, 2033. The amendment allows for increased base rent and per round golf rates compared to the previous amendments. In years 1 through 4, SGM will remit $2.75 per round of golf to the city, increasing to $3 per round in year 5. SGM and the clubhouse tenant, currently Sugar Pine Smokehouse, and the city will each contribute $25,000 annually to a capital improvement fund. Thus, the grand contribution for capital improvements annually shall be $75,000. The base rent will be $65,000 annually to lease the golf course and clubhouse facilities. The city will utilize the golf course for 5 events at no charge. There will be annual updates to the city on previous year's improvements and the planning year's improvements. The city will hold SGM capital funds of $50,000 annually until capital projects are completed.
We established a golf course advisory committee. I see several members here tonight. We have one council member, myself, the parks director. We have an SGM representative, a service organization representative, a golfer at large community member, and a food and beverage director representative. Terms for this agreement, again, I just reiterate, just to put it in a concise form, we get 5 years. The base rent, $65,000 annually. Per round rate to the city, years 1 through 4, $2.75. Year 5, $3 a round. And capital improvements, contribution by SGM, $50,000 and $25,000 by the city. The projected revenue, and I'll spend a little time on this just so we can, this slide's a little busy and we're putting this table together. So I want you to take a good look at it. Again, this shows what I just kind of went through. You've got the base fee of $65,000 and you also have the revenue for the rounds is projected to be $82,500 for a total of $147,500. What you'll see is that the payment to the city will increase in year 5 to $150,000, and that's based on the increase in revenue for the fees per round. And so that's where the increase comes. This does not include capital improvements contributions, which are identified in Table 6 of this report. It's another slide I want you to pay close attention to because this represents the deferred maintenance items that were identified by the advisory committee. The numbers here are budgetary estimates with the exception of one item where we actually do have a firm quote. The first item is tree roots and external concrete. And this whole list is based on a report that was done by Fire Marshal Matt Tarr and then actually moved over into a letter that was put together by the advisory committee and shared with the council previously, and again, I think in your staff reports as well. There's missing paint on the exterior, and that's $50,000. There was a notice to repair some exit signage that's already been completed. The kitchen ceiling, that's been completed as well. We did a estimate of the AC and mechanical units, and for the value, it's about $210,000 to replace all the units in the buildings. For the restrooms, that's the one where we do have a firm quote, and that's $80,000, and that's split between $40,000 for this year and then another $40,000 in the next year, starting in July 1st, the next budget. So I think we talked about that in previous meetings. The egress doors, we estimated to be about $60,000. Irrigation, this is one that actually, this is not just a budgetary estimate. This $4 million was actually Porterville just replaced their entire irrigation system. And so we actually got what they paid for it. So that would be an estimate to replace the whole system and get the whole whiz bang with the satellites and that's everything. So I wanted to convey that. If we just replace some of the things that have to do with the irrigation, which is not the full system. The pump station would be about $60,000. If we replaced all the heads and controllers, it'd be about $1 million. Again, right now, I wanted to convey this too, is because currently with the estimate that we spend replacing heads and sprinkler heads and things of that nature, it works out to about $40,000 annually. So there's quite a difference between what we spend today and what we could possibly spend if we decide to do so. In the report, there was a mention of invasive grass and weeds, and SGM will take care of that. There's two items here that we needed more clarification because they were actually in the USGA report that the golf course received. So we'll have to go back. It wasn't real clear with the committee what they actually meant, but that's enhanced practice facilities and additional turf on the driving range. Any questions on this slide? Okay. And again, I like to do pictures so you can kind of see, I think all of you have been out to the golf course at some point. This is the doors that need to be replacing, some of the baseboard structures and need some paint there. Here's the infamous restrooms that we've talked quite a bit about since I've been working on the golf course, and we hear it quite a bit. The AC units. This is one of the units that I think there's about 7, and we calculate about 30,000 a piece to fix this, and or to replace. And then these are the doors again that just it needs some TLC. So to kind of reiterate where we're at, you can kind of see this is another busy slide. But if you look at this year, that we have rents from the pro shop, and there's still 2 months to go. So this was a snapshot in time, but it will eventually be 65,000 that I talked about before. The green fee user charges, again, this is 2 months to go. We anticipate it'll be 90,000. Transfer in from the general fund. There's for this item here, this is provided by the general funds, and the funds from the general fund are transferred to the golf course. Thus, it's shown as revenues. These funds help pay to service outstanding debt. And as you can see in 24, 25, that goes away because we had paid off the golf course. Now, if I go here, that's what I was talking about on. And again, you can kind of see the trajectory of how the debt has gone down. So the revenues have gone down. We didn't have to pay as much. Let's see. This slide here is another busy one, but again, let me try to explain it as best I can. In 23-24, you can see that our expenses were $230,000. That's expected to decrease significantly in 24-25 because the interest payments on our loan will disappear and the principal payment for the loan will disappear as well. So again, the expenses should drop accordingly. This does not include the contribution that we'll make for our capital improvements, our portion of it, which is the $25K. And again, I just remind you on these numbers, there's still 2 months to go. And I think just to kind of backtrack a little bit, it's essential to recognize that historically the general fund has played a crucial role in supporting the golf course financially. However, it's important to understand that the general fund also subsidizes various other public spaces within the city, including all of our parks, Town and Country, McNally, Pan Am, American Center, Sunrise Rotary, Frank Burgon, and the public pools. While the golf course and public pools are the only facilities typically accessible via payment from visitors, the golf course is the only facility operated by a for-profit private company. This distinction is important in understanding the diverse operational models employed within our community spaces. Furthermore, while program sports fields such as soccer fields and baseball diamonds are available to the public, it's pertinent to acknowledge that private leagues often lease these fields. However, the rental rates only partially reflect the actual costs of maintaining these facilities. And going through the budget process, I see this all the time, where we spend more than we take in. As a result, the general fund also subsidizes such facilities, emphasizing the broader context of financial support for public amenities within the city. So again, looking at this, what this tells you, it gives you kind of a snapshot over a 5-year period. So we're in 23-24 right now, and you can see the $65,000 as a base fee, and then the $82,500 for revenue for rounds. And if you look at this slide, basically it'll give you, if you put these two together and then you subtract these three as expenses, you come out with this number down here. And you can see in 24-25, what we expected is as revenue for the city is about $43,959. Any questions on this slide? Okay. The staff has no recommendation currently, but we request council to review the information provided and give us direction of how you would like to proceed.
Thank you for that report, Parks Director Hebert. Bring it to my colleagues for any discussion or comments. Councilman Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I did notice that we did have an advisor here, but I'm assuming he left.
Yeah, I saw him too.
Last item, maybe the questions weren't answered. But anyhow, I wanted to thank you, Director Hebert, for giving us a breakdown, because I think that really gives the council an idea of where we're at as far as the funding that we receive from the golf course, the debt that's paid off, and what's left over at the end of the day, right? And we're looking at bottom line, we're left with $43,000 after we pay all our commitments to the airport and the insurance. And that leaves us with and a $25,000 commitment that we have per the 9th Amendment. So as you've seen the pictures there, that's only a small amount of repair. So you can kind of see that your facility or your asset that the city owns is kind of deteriorating. And because of the deferred maintenance, it continues to deteriorate as time goes by. Now, the amount of $75,000 will only cover certain capital improvements. And you have to remember that capital improvements are not just to the building. There's capital improvements that are done to the course itself. As more and more play at the golf course takes place, obviously bunkers need to be replaced. And there's, maybe car paths or whatever the case to make that facility a better facility, right? So you always have to upkeep that. And we're not taking that into account. Obviously, the $4 million is huge. I don't think the SGM had said that we needed to replace the whole irrigation, especially the pipes, if not mainly the systems that may help us conserve more water, sprinkler heads, and certain, maybe the valves that operate those systems. I don't know that we have to go to the tune of $1 million, but every year I think we want to allocate some money so that we're not falling behind. I think since the agreement that started in 2009, these capital improvements were never really accounted for and brought here on an annual basis. And there may have been reports, but I don't recall us seeing that and saying, hey, we expended $50,000 in such improvements. And there was no advisory to comply and or adhere to that and say, this is what we'd like to see. So this just happened as of last year. Again, I was appointed to the advisory as stipulated on the agreement. And we've since uncovered that these findings are there and present, and we need to address them. The parking lot at some point needs to be addressed as well. I don't know if the $50,000 included the painting of the whole building or just certain sections of the building, but the units are starting to really give way, right? At some point they're going to have to be replaced to the tune of maybe $30,000 per unit, and there's 6 units. So you came up with the figure of 210. We came up, I was thinking 180,000 to that degree. But either way, when I was there, I don't know if they purposely left the ACs off, but I walked out of there with my armpits sweating, and I kind of let Lisa know, I don't know if you did this on purpose, but there's some security issues also with the doors. The doors are just hanging there, and they're emergency exits that we need to have. I think our fire marshal had also identified that. But anyhow, what I would recommend, and again, I would hope that advisor was here as well so that he can give his comments. But what I would recommend is that we utilize the remaining funds to invest back in capital improvements to the facilities and or any additional gaps that exist there. I don't think we can take care of this here with $75,000, even for the next 20, 30 years. We're already behind. That building is in dire need of just maintenance. And aside from that, you still have to look after the golf course as well as stipulated on the contract. If we're putting $75,000 annually, even if we got those units replaced, it would take us well over 15 years to replace all the units and still try to maintain the necessities within that golf course. So we've paid down the loan. We have an additional $43,000. At this time, I don't know that it'd be prudent for us to take anything from the general fund, but we do have leftover assets that may be able to help facilitate that. If we need to replace those units, then that would be a request that we would come and ask this council that, you're holding functions there. You have a tenant there that is, putting Band-Aids on all these little tiny issues that come across, but it needs to be resolved. Who is the responsible party? Is it the city that's the landlord, or is it the tenant? And that, I don't know if that's really spelled out in that 9th Amendment or in the original contract, but I know that with the type of contract that we have for a commercial business, I think that lies on the landlord. And correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not sure if our attorneys or legal counsel has vetted this out completely, but at some point that needs to be brought to you to determine whether or not that applies to the tenant or landlord. Those are my comments.
Thank you, Councilman Rodriguez. Councilman Montes.
Yeah, so I agree with Councilman Rodriguez that there's a need at this facility, but I think there's also needs everywhere. And so my question, I guess, would be, what is the standard operating procedure? So, because I know we've been talking about this a lot, and we've gotten recently some communications. I get more communications at other facilities, particularly. I think we've been in a bunch of meetings with like soccer fields, right? We need more, we need to improve. What is the standard operating procedure for when we're doing that? As far as like capital projects or bigger projects, do we put that on our CIP and then council takes it pretty much all together? Or can you explain that process to me?
I can only address the process for the golf course that we have with SGM. I'm not sure how they do wide, or maybe city manager can jump in.
Thank you, Joe. Let me attempt to address that. Let me begin by saying that I don't think the city of Madera has done an excellent job in addressing a lot of the deferred maintenance. We've attempted a lot of Band-Aid solutions, and I think we've had a lot of success employing those solutions. We have been extremely aggressive with grant funding, with state funding, and identifying additional funding sources to address some of those needs. And I think the community is starting to see some of those benefits as we speak with McNally Park, where we're putting over $600,000 in it. We have addressed some of our needs at Pan Am Park. Unfortunately, it's not enough. We're doing it with the Fresno River as we speak. We are attempting to do some work at Town and Country with both state funding, coupled with some donations, some grants, and general fund dollars. We've also seen some at Millview where we've addressed a lot of the sprinklers, and city staff has replaced some concrete via general fund dollars. So right now, we've attempted a patchwork of general fund, grants, and state funding. Moving forward in next year's budget, one of the things that we're attempting to do is to quantify a lot of the deferred maintenance that we have both in our publicly accessible facilities, but also some of our non-public facilities. For example, the courtyard, our police station. We're in the process of coming up with a list. Our facilities team is identifying a list of the most important or most pressing issues. And then what we're going to try to do is put some dollar figures to that. I will say that I do think we've done a much better job at our fleet yard. We've replaced the lifts. We've identified money for all of the doors. I think there's 11 of them. We've painted the floor, or we've replaced the floor, I'll say, not the concrete, but we put an epoxy on the floor. We're painting the facility as we speak. We are moving our parks facilities team into their new offices. Their former home, the casita, is now vacant. We'll be coming back to council with a proposal to demolish that. We are moving some of our IT team outside of City Hall because of space needs. So there's not one clear answer, but we've attempted to address some of our needs. We do not have a document, though, that someone can pick up off the shelf and say, this is where the city's going in the next year. We're trying to come up with it as we speak. We have a lot of deferred maintenance across the organization. Sewer system, water system, police department, our fire stations. Again, we've identified buckets, and we're growing some of those buckets now. At the police department, we're adding a parking lot. We painted the interior. We did the flooring. We still have some additional needs there. We have started investing in Station 57 and 56. We've done the drive approaches. We're short on the interior. We do have some money saved up via Measure K that will be coming back to council. And then in next year's, and this council has approved a grant for CDBG funding for our parking lots, predominantly on the east side public facilities, Frank Burgon Center, Millview Park, Sunrise Rotary, and Pan Am, and Swimming Pool Park. Those are the 5 facilities. So we are trying to do it with the patchwork of funding sources, but right now we do not have a clear document that identifies where those funding sources are at. We're very aggressive in our funding, and we're very aggressive in trying to bring in some additional revenue. But we have it's a very long list of needs, and that's the list that we're coming up with. So that's a long way of me saying we're preparing a list right now, but that list is going to be short on every detail. The list is going to identify the most pressing needs we have today. Leaking roofs is going to be one of them, doors and HVAC units.
Okay, so I guess the more pointed question was that these type of repairs, when we do identify them, they're not on our CIP list that the council, because there are some similar, right, like sidewalks and things like that. On some of them we say, okay, this one's one we're going to do, or we're going to move this way, but none of these, or a lot of these, would not even be on that.
You're absolutely correct. Right now we have not made it an organizational approach to identify them on the CIP, and maybe that's something that we can look at, but maybe it's not called the CIP, but maybe it's something that alludes to capital improvements. I'm not too sure the exact definition of a CIP. There's probably some strict legal language for that. I'm speculating as I look at legal counsel.
Like I said, I agree, Councilman Rodriguez, that there's a great need, but like I would prefer to not view this facility in a vacuum, right?
Understood.
I mean, because we can go to a lot of our facilities, and we have been identifying and doing a good job. That'd be my preference. That staff maybe come back with a bigger wish list, and it sounds like you guys are already doing that.
Correct.
Before we say, okay, on this one we're gonna use some extra dollars on this. That would be my preference. Now, if that extra revenue, right, is something that would be can only use it there, I don't see. But if that's going back to the general fund, because that facility has been subsidized, extremely subsidized for a very long time. I don't know. I would like to see not this facility just not in a vacuum, right? I mean, it's an important facility. I think that it's a good asset, but that would be my preference.
Understood.
Is that all, Councilman Montes? Okay, Councilman Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, and thank you, Councilman Montes, for your comments. One of the things that was pointed out by Director Hebert is that aside from swimming pool park, the golf course is operated for profit. So there is a profit component there. And like any tenant landlord leases, whenever you make any improvements to your asset, then you may pass that on to your tenant. In this case, it may warrant a assessment of where we're at with the current rent. I know that we have an agreement, but it certainly calls for us to revisit that and make sure that we are collecting sufficient to be able to overcome these challenges, especially monetary challenges that we're going to have here in the future. What my direction is that we utilize some of those funds that are generated. Again, these are the for profit that you generate from the lease, and then again you generate from the rounds, and try to utilize that to just shorten that gap for, like you said, HVACs, leaky roofs, pavement, or anything else that really puts that asset in a depletion mode, and it starts really just depleting. And because of the deferred maintenance we've had for such a long time, that we don't let this happen another 5-10 years. I may not be in council, we may not be in council, but this will be a problem that we will kick the can down the road for council to take care of that then. This is the advisory telling the council that, hey, we're in a dire need of some type of maintenance on this deal. And I can assure you that in the next year or two, it's not going to go away. So that's my recommendation, is that we utilize the remaining funds and push those to address some of the other improvements that need immediate attention, and maybe an HVAC every year or maybe two. I'm not sure how bad they are, but it's been 30 years, and I think the life of any HVAC, if it goes beyond 30 years, that's a great HVAC. But I think anywhere between 20 to 30 years, and they're about to go out. So they may be knocking at our door saying, hey, we need to do something. Is that our responsibility? If it is, it's fine. We'll do it, but we have to reassess the whole the lease or at some point, and I'm not sure if that's sooner than later. So my recommendation for today, and I appreciate Councilmember Montes' comments, is that we allow for those additional 43,000 to be utilized again to help with the maintenance of the facility and/or golf course.
Thank you, Councilman Rodriguez, if that's all you have.
That's what I have.
Thank you. I just want to make a comment that I have been on council the longest 8 years, and I've been kicking and screaming about the golf course for 8 years. I've been kicking and screaming about our parks for 8 years, and within a year, I have to say, Director Aber, I am seeing the light. You've done amazing things with our city manager and staff, and I know we still have a long way to go, but it is so refreshing to see that we're starting to finally move the needle forward and get some new parks that we have going. Our facilities are getting better, but again, like Councilman Rodriguez says, the golf course is much needed because a lot of our community uses that. And we did learn when we first got on council, Councilman Rodriguez and I went to the League of Cities, and we sat in a session that basically told us in order to make money, you have to spend some sometimes. And we might have to spend some to get this facility up to par so that we can make more and ask for more rent for the facility or more for the golf course, for more money per rounds, whatever it is. So that's something I totally agree with too. But I would like to just give you a shout out and thank you for that. At this time, I open up for public comment. Anybody have any comments for us out there? Alicia, do we have any written or Zoom?
We have none. Thank you.
Okay, I bring it back to my colleagues for a motion.
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, I'm sorry. I know that staff didn't really give us a recommendation. I think they're seeking direction, and that direction again, I think I made I made the recommendation. Again, this would be with the approval of my colleagues that we utilize that, or you know, if it's at the pleasure of this council to bring this back with more finite numbers. But I think we know that even bringing back a report only defers it more. So I don't know if this council feels comfortable at the moment. I think we all attended the EDC. I don't know if you were part of the EDC, but part of that, you know, you can start seeing it's there, it's in front of us, and we can't deny it. So I understand that the restrooms are a priority. That's happening. I hope to see that happen pretty soon, but the HVACs will be your next item. And those are their big ticket items alongside any ADA issues that were pointed out by the Fire Marshal Tar. So I made the recommendation again. This is what's left over. I understand that it's been subsidized for many years. This wasn't us. This wasn't the council deciding that the golf course would be a great thing for the city at the time. I think throughout the 90s, this was the thing to do. And right now, municipal golf courses are not doing as well, unless you're in a very highly urban area where they take advantage of it. Here, it's a for-profit. We leased it out to these SGM. They have it. One thing to consider also, city manager and Director Aber, is that we don't have a system of like checking the per rounds. I don't know if part of the amendment and or the contract stipulated whether or not we had a city representative looking into that to make sure that there's a point of sale system or something that reflects what these rounds are, who's actually counting as those rounds. Do the members count for rounds? All that needs to be stipulated. And I know during COVID, we had Councilmember Gallegos and I pointed to the ad hoc. We were trying to make this thing work because of the time crunch that we had. We were trying to turn this over. We didn't know if they were going to operate. I mean, it just so happened that the pandemic really put a stranglehold on these operations, but we didn't know that it was going to be a boom. So we missed out on that. But now we can do this patiently and find out if we do have someone that will be looking into that as well. So I would recommend that we look into that. But for now, that would be my recommendation.
So City Attorney, would it behoove us to make a motion on Councilman Rodriguez's putting the remainder 43,000 back into the golf course?
Yes, this evening he can provide that direction. Now, it will mean that, assuming there's a second and a pass, it will mean that that $43,000 will be coming back to the city council as to the specific items it would be dedicated for. In essence, it's basically the direction to the city manager to put that into the budget for next year that $43,000 would be going towards the improvements?
So Mayor Pro Tem, if I may, just a point of clarification. If the council provides direction for staff to allocate any additional revenues above and beyond expenses that the golf course generates, my recommendation is to not state a number of 43,000 because that number it's fluid and it's on assumptions that there's 30,000 rounds. It could be less, it could be more. The other couple of items is insurance it's fluid. And we do have an agreement with the FAA. At some point, I'm going to speculate and say the FAA is going to come back and say, city, you have to revisit. You have to recalibrate that number. My suggestion this evening would be if the council is going to provide direction, and if the majority of council vote for it, to say anything above and beyond the expenses that the city experiences, but that those funds not be allocated until the ACFR for the previous following year be allocated. So we're always going to be about 9 months behind on allocating that funds because we don't know what those funds are until we complete our audit. So for example, in the fiscal year that we're in right now, we will hopefully be completing our ACFR. Let's assume at the beginning of 2025, I'm sorry, we're in 2024. And then those monies would be added to the budget. So we'll always be about 9 to 10 months behind, again, if that's the council's direction this evening, but I would not stipulate a specific dollar amount. Thank you.
Councilman Rodriguez.
Yes, thank you for that clarification there, City Manager Rodriguez. What I can do then, I can remodify my motion and stating that this body would allow the advisory to submit again, as an advisory, submit to the council expenses not to exceed the amounts reported on the audit. Okay? So this way, at the discretion of council, of course, this is not the advisory making the decision, but rather us bringing, hey, after the audits, we're noticing that there's $29,000. Then come back and say, these are the expenses presented. Council would then have the authority to decide if they want to move on that. I know that's a long motion, but I'm not sure if that was cleared there. Shannon?
Yeah, I have a motion.
I'd have one last question. So for the liability that we have, that doesn't come into so next year, right? Because we still have one, this year we're still paying on the loan. So there's actually no money this year. It would be in July is when we start, right? Because I'm looking at your table. So table 7, it says that we're sorry, revenues, right? So you're saying 40, but on your table 5, it says when we're going to actually finish paying is going to be year 24, 25, which is next year, not this year. It's not like there wasn't any.
So that may be an error. My understanding is we paid the loan off in November of 2023. And I'm gonna.
This is off.
Yeah.
Off? Okay. All right.
I'm gonna look at Finance Director Lima to have him confirm. I'm gonna put him on the spot.
Okay. Could you say that question again, please?
So I'm looking at table 5 of Joe's presentation, and it's saying that our interest for the loan and principal payment we're still going to pay $161,800 this year in 23-24.
That is correct. Yeah, we paid that in November, so that's part of this fiscal year. But it was basically a half-year payment. You'll notice the other payments previous to that were over $300,000. And normally we make 2 payments a year, one in November, one in May. This year we only had a November payment, and that completed that bond. So next fiscal year we will have no payment at all, and that's what that table's showing.
But it wiped out whatever you would have had as revenue for 23-24, because on table 7 it shows that we have 43,958, which is actually we're negative.
Correct. It wiped out the general fund subsidy that was being used to pay for it because the golf course was not generating enough revenue on its own to cover that bond payment. So the general fund was kicking in over $250,000 or around $250,000 a year in order to be able to meet the bond payment. So the bond payment was being made by a combination of golf course revenue plus that general fund subsidy. Without that debt payment that going forward, now you don't need the general fund subsidy. That's money that can be used for other general fund purposes for the organization.
I get that, but for this year, the subsidy was still 160 some odd $1,000, right?
No, I believe the subsidy was 74 or in the 70s. The subsidy was a lot less. And that's a result of the fact that the fees were restructured at the golf course. So the golf course generated more money. So you didn't need to bring in the other dollars from the general fund. I believe that there's a table that shows it is around 74 or 75,000.
I believe what Councilmember Montes is alluding to is on table 4. I believe there's an error. There's an error on the bottom row. Says transfer in from general fund footnote 3. It states that there is a transfer in of $76,336, which is the same number as the total revenue. That number.
I have the total revenue at 205,719. I think the staff report's off my presentation has a different number.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Table 4 on the staff report looks to be, there's an error on table 4.
Okay, that's fine. But it answers my question though.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the direction that Councilman Rodriguez stated, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We got that? Okay. Thank you for that. Moving on to council member reports, announcement, future agenda items. This portion of the meeting is reserved for the mayor and the council members to make brief reports on boards, committees, and other public agencies at a public event to request updates, to initiate future agenda items, and to take action on matters initiated under the section of the agenda. Under this section, the council may take actions only on items specifically agendized and which meet other requirements for action. Councilwoman Evans.
Wow. Blessings, everyone. First and foremost, we need prayer. Basically, I'm just really kind of looking for help as far as the Juneteenth celebration is concerned. I'm trying to get together a community choir, race, creed, and color of everyone to come out and participate. Also, I'm in search of past and present veterans. We went to the League of Cities. I've also been to the NARO. So there are a few things that I want to discuss, but I'll bring those back another time. But anyway, thank you very much. You guys be safe and have a good night.
Thank you, Councilwoman Evans. Councilman Montes.
It's late, nothing to report.
All right, thank you. Councilwoman Mejia.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Happy May Day, everyone. I was glad to see it coincided with the proclamation for Public Service Week and having our city staff here. Even though we are elected and we're supposed to make these decisions that are important for our city, a lot of us on here don't stop being workers, and some are happily retired, so they know what it's like to be a worker. So happy May Day to everyone. I was happy to be a part of the City Leaders Summit earlier this month, and I thank Assemblywoman Esmeralda Soria for giving our local leaders a space and centering Madera Community Hospital. I know that she has been on that fight since day one. It was great to be in the same room and have her listen to our concerns, not only us, but several Central Valley cities. So thank you for that space. Also, thank you to the kindergartners at Easton Arcola for the invitation, even though it's way past Read Across America Day. They had me in their classroom reading. That was pretty fun. Thank you to the parents of Madera Coalition for Community Justice. It's very interesting. They have a parents group. They have classes that they do only through the phone. And I was giving an overview about what it is to be a council member and trying to provide that education and accessibility for our community. So I really appreciated the invitation. as somebody mentioned earlier today, there is going to be an event this Friday, May 3rd, from 12 p.m. to 7 p.m. at Courthouse Park. What I think that wasn't really emphasized, and I'd like to emphasize, is the uniqueness of that event as far as having women that are going to be cooking traditional, elaborate, authentic, home-cooked dishes. And for a lot of them, it's the first time that they're going to be participating in anything like this. It would be really great if we could all go and support. Also on Saturday, there's going to be a yard sale everywhere in Madera, but there's especially a community group that you've heard of before, Comité Guelaguetza Madera, is going to have their yard sale at 1012 North Lake Street from 7 a.m. to 12 p.m. And as you all know, they are doing fundraisers throughout the year to make sure that the Guelaguetza remains free and accessible to everyone in the community. So all of the proceeds from that yard sale are going to go towards that. And that's my report for today. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, Councilwoman Mejia. Councilman Rodriguez.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Gallegos. It is now about 8:29. I figured it'd be a little early. I'm going to drag this out for another 30 minutes. So let me start here. I, alongside Councilmember Mejia, Councilmember Evans, and Councilmember Villegas, and our esteemed City Manager Rodriguez, attended the City Leader Summit in Sacramento. I thought, which I thought, did I not say it?
I don't think I heard Evans.
Said
okay, sorry.
Mejia, Evans, Villegas, and our esteemed City Manager Rodriguez. But anyhow, it was great to be out there alongside my colleagues. One of the main themes out there, of course, is always trying to get, your governments, your boards, talking about the homelessness, the council's do's and don'ts, which reminds me that maybe that's something that we too need to address, or maybe bring back, maybe some governance for us, our bylaws, or, just kind of the way we conduct ourselves. I think it's important. I used to do this with our governing body at the school board, and it was a good refresher for us to kind of how we conduct in meetings, following the Rosenberg rules, right? And not necessarily the Robert Rules of Order, but it's a good introduction for us, so that was a good way for me. I think these city leader summits that we go to expose us to new themes that are taking place, not only in the city of Madera, but in our surrounding sister cities and or municipalities that partake in the California League of Cities. That being said, we also met with Congressman Duarte. For those that were here, he did present us with that $2 million check. I know that was publicized, but I wanted to say that $1 million for our trunk line on Pecan or Avenue 13, and then the other $1 million for our drainage down Howard, which I thought was great. Any money that we can get from Congress or even our state legislators is great. Last and not least, I had an opportunity to attend through the Madera County Transportation Commission the TCAG and that Turlock it's Turlock County Association of Governments, or they call them CAGs. We in Madera don't have one, but these COGs, or Council of Governments, are cities that unite, kind of like what we have with MCTC and EDC. We have these joint power authorities where we come together for the betterment of the whole county. And that's what they have in Turlock. They have that in Stanislaus, Merced. Madera is one of the few that doesn't have a COG. Not sure if that's something that can be brought up later, but it certainly helps us with additional funding sometimes with the federal side, especially when it comes to housing elements and stuff. But the good thing that I learned is that transportation, in a way, it kind of marries the housing elements that the state mandates. And the reason being is because transportation is so it's so needed, but at the same time, there is a mandate from the state to reduce greenhouse gases. So how do you do that? Well, you try to have housing closer to work, and that eliminates the vehicles miles traveled. Sitting on the Transportation Commission alongside your Mayor Pro Tem Gallegos, these are terms that I haven't been exposed to, but being part of this a commission and also sitting on the Regional Policy Council, these are 8 counties that come together to fight for common interests within the valley. Many of the times we see funding going to the North Bay and the South Bay. Arnoldo, you know this. when it comes to funding, that the people with the loudest bark typically get the most money. So in the Central Valley, if we formulate just Madera by itself, then it's not as big a player as these other folks in these other urbanized areas. So formulating this regional policy council through the San Joaquin, 8 counties come together and advocate not only to Congress, but your state legislators, the importance of the resources that we all share. We share resources of water, transportation, equity, inclusion, diversity, all those things that we want to bring here. We need to do it with obviously the assistance of others. One voice is what we call it. So anyhow, I wanted to report back that you've given me that opportunity and that honor of serving not only in the MCTC, but now serving in a capacity with the Regional Policy Council. So that was our TCAG. I still have 5 minutes, but I'll yield my time, Mayor Pro Tem, and I'm done.
Thank you, Councilman Rodriguez. Councilman Venegas.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Yeah, we have attend City Summit, and something they come out to me about the presentation of the homeless. They're talking about entering homes, some kind of homes for the homeless. So we haven't implemented anything in the city of Madera yet. So hopefully in the future we can consider that to do something more appropriate for them. And also the $2 million that Mr. Congress Duarte bring it to us, that's going to be a lot of help for the projects and that we have it in mind. So, and just we just want to invite everybody if we can. It's Friday night at 5:30 to 7, somewhere around there. We're gonna inauguration of the 2 basketball courts at McNally Park. So I invite everybody if you can be there in the direction of the ceremony. So everybody can be welcomed. And that's my report.
Thank you for that. I'm going to take Councilman Rodriguez's next 5 minutes. No, I'll be fast. We have a local resident who was my second grade student who's opening up his own tennis shoe business on Friday for ribbon cutting from Valley Steel. So hopefully everybody can be out for that. We have Relay for Life on Saturday at 8 o'clock coming out to Town Country Park. And Councilman Rodriguez and I do sit at MCTC, and Councilman Rodriguez got a lot of information about Vanpool. It's a company that goes around and helps take the elderly to medical appointments. So I'd like my colleagues to entertain having the NVGM come and talk to us. We've purchased 4 vans, and just give us an insight of how that's working and let us know. We have our TAP Commissioner Cynthia, who has some concerns about our buses, our dial-a-ride buses and our MAX buses. So I would like him to come over and do a presentation and has some questions that a lot of us probably have on this dais.
What does NVGM stand for?
That's our, who runs our dial-a-ride and MAX.
Oh, okay.
Transportation. Okay, I think I have enough for that. Okay, with that, that's all I have to report. Going to closed session. Our city attorney can take us into closed session, please.
Thank you very much. We have one item for closed session, item G1, liability claim pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.95. The claimant is Ishmael Adonai. The agency claimed against is the city of Madera.
Thank you for that. Don't go away. We'll return in a little bit. Oh, any public comment on closed session? Thank you very much. With that, I close closed session, and we will move into our closed session with that. Thank you. Thank you, Alicia. City Attorney, can you bring us out of closed session?
Thank you, Chair Gallegos. We have one reportable action in closed session. The council voted to deny the request to file a late claim. Thank you.
Thank you for that report. With that, I adjourn the meeting at 8:50. Everybody have a safe travels home, and thank you.